Okay, joining us now to discuss, senior national security analyst and former acting director of national intelligence and former ambassador to the country of Germany, Ric Grenell. Ambassador, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
So we just heard, some sparks are flying, to say the very least, over there. You have the pager attack, the walkie-talkie attack. A drone comes in, kills an IDF soldier. Benjamin Netanyahu has warned the U.S. that maybe only military action is the only response they have left in order to handle the situation in the north with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Where do you see this going?
Well, Bob, there's a 2019 New York Times story which highlights the fact that Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, all of these proxies of Iran weren't getting paid. They were literally bankrupt. They weren't able to go out and do their terror because their paychecks were bouncing. And this New York Times story highlighted the fact that Donald Trump's sanctions on Iran were working. We had them bankrupt. But when the Biden-Harris team came in and changed the policy, changed the Trump policy, and offered Iran a chance to come into the international community, drop the sanctions, they got massive amounts of economic development because the sanctions were dropped, to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars in sanctions relief cash and credit. Remember, we gave them $6 billion for a hostage swap. So you can't be surprised that we get more war when Iran is flush with cash. This is what Iran does, is they produce war. And so I can pinpoint all of these problems that are happening right now, the killings, all because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris funded this war. There is no question about it. The New York Times story in 2019 confirms this. And so as I see the war escalate, and I see the fact that Hezbollah clearly has enough money from Iran, from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, to continue these wars, it's troubling. We need to have a peace offering. We need to have a peace deal. And we have to remember that Donald Trump delivered Arab-Israeli peace, not war.
He sure did. But, Rick, as we remember, we've heard countless times from the Biden-Harris administration that a ceasefire is imminent. I mean, again, countless times. And they have said it with such certainty, with such promise, despite the fact that we've seen that Prime Minister Netanyahu has not agreed with them. But what of all of those words and clearly empty promises?
Well, first of all, the media aren't able to talk to Kamala Harris and ask her questions, and so we have to just deal with press releases, one-way press releases from the Harris team. And what's clear to me is that the people running Michigan are running our foreign policy. So they're pretending like there's something going on, but there's no ability of Kamala Harris to bring together Israel and the Palestinian leadership. First of all, Hamas is in control of Gaza. So when she talks about two-state solution, what Kamala Harris is saying is she wants Israel to have a state and she wants Hamas to have a state. It's crazy to think about that. What we're trying to say as we go out in Michigan and Pennsylvania to Arab Americans and Jews and evangelicals alike is a message that's very clear. You will get more peace from Donald Trump, and you won't get Iran funding these wars. And so you're just getting a bunch of political spin from Kamala Harris. I'm not sure she knows exactly where Gaza is. She certainly doesn't know foreign policy. And so we're not getting someone who can bring the two sides together and say, we are now going to get the hostages released. Now we're going to talk about some real opportunities for peace. Donald Trump can do that. Kamala Harris can't.
Ambassador, I want to get to this. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller, he was recently asked how the U.S. would respond if Israel escalates the war. Here's what he said.
Let me make one thing clear. We are committed to the defense of Israel against terrorist organizations. That includes Hamas, it includes Hezbollah, includes other Iranian proxies. We will continue to stand by Israel's right to defend itself. But we don't want to see any party escalate this conflict, period.
Ambassador, I think you could make the argument that Israel is defending itself, that they're doing what they have to do that, and there's a disagreement with the Biden and Harris administration about how they go about making sure that they are secure from terrorists.
I'm sure Spokesman Miller is a nice guy, but I look forward to him being unemployed. We cannot have all of this hypocrisy coming from the State Department. Certainly the State Department needs to be talking about peace agreements, but this is an administration that has funded these terrorists. He should be saying, we made a mistake when we started to fund Iran. He's not saying that. He's trying to cover up and claim that we somehow don't want escalation. We're paying for this escalation. It's crazy that we can't have reporters pushing back on the spokesman saying, wait a minute, you're talking about de-escalation. You want to de-escalate. The only reason Hezbollah has any ability to go after Israel or any other entity is because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden funded them. It's totally outrageous, and someone should be able to push back at the State Department press corps.
Ambassador, we're also learning, and this is according to the FBI, that last June, Iranian hackers sent emails containing stolen material from former President Trump's campaign to people involved in President Biden's then re-election campaign. Now, since then, these hackers have continued their efforts since sending stolen non-public material associated with former President Trump's campaign to U.S. media organizations. That is a mouthful, but want to get all of the information out there. Your reaction to what we're learning from the FBI?
Well, look, I would say here we go again. They tried this with Russian collusion. Now look what's happening here. Shame on Christopher Wray and Avril Haines, the FBI director and the director of national intelligence. Neither one of them are facing the media. They certainly don't get pushback. But they both came out with this silly assessment that Iran hacked into and took information from the Trump campaign, gave it to the Biden administration, but then they went so far as to say, we have no evidence that it was used, I mean, which is completely silly. If you know what Iran does, if you understand clearly who Iran is, they have proxies, they have all sorts of ways to make sure that that information is shared. And I don't care what the Kamala Harris spokesman says, when they try to spin, we didn't get the information, we don't know what you're talking about. You're asking us to trust the Kamala Harris team that they didn't take valuable information and use it. I've got two words for you. Hillary Clinton. We've learned our lesson through the Clinton campaign. We know exactly who these people are. They paid for the Steele dossier. Now they're pushing this phony Project 2025, just like the Russian Steele dossier. And here they go again now, taking information from Iran and pretending like they don't have insider information. Right. This is silly, and the reporters need to get Avril Haines on the record, ask her, what does the intelligence community know?
Yeah. Ric Grenell, all excellent points. As always, we appreciate your insight. And I'm glad you mentioned the Clinton campaign and administration as well, because I was just thinking they didn't use it. That sounds to me like, and I didn't inhale. But anyway, we'll leave that there. All right, Ambassador, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up, we're getting our first